sound like coffee, but I
Oh,
always say Ko-Fi when I say it out loud.
okay. I think we're live now.
Okay, cool.
Let me see. Make sure our sound is coming in good.
Maybe I'll tune in and mute it so I don't.
I'm not hearing
Oh, okay, it's
anything.
delayed a little bit.
Do you hear anything on your end?
Yeah, I can hear it through
Oh,
the
good.
YouTube video.
Because I'm not hearing anything on the stream end. So, but if you can hear something, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little delayed, but other than that, I think we're good.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you again thanks for again doing this. I'm very excited to have you on.
Yeah.
I kind of just have been doing these things because I like connecting with people. The reason I made this channel is because I really want to like talk about people that share similar passions with myself. And I feel like those passions for me are mental health and like D&D or tabletop games. And I know that you make amazing maps, so I think
Something like that.
that shows passion on a level that I am not able to express in the same way, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I really haven't been using Incarnate for that long, and sometimes like I don't know, I feel like I'm just playing with like a really advanced sticker book because I don't know if you've ever loaded it up, but it's basically like a fancy in-browser paint program, and most of it is based off of like texture brushes and stamps. So like all of the little pieces, all the little trees and ship stuff is just stamps. You're really just like arranging things. I mean, there is more to it than that, but
Yeah.
like on the whole, like you could, it feels like you're just like putting little pieces in place. But I've enjoyed it, and it's been nice to get some positive feedback from people in the community. It's really helped me like keep trying to get better at it.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at like some of the stuff that you were posting today, I mean, the feedback that you were getting was awesome. Like, really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away still. Anytime something gets more than like 2 or 3 likes, I'm just like, who are you people?
I know, seriously. Well, it's cool. I love having. I'm very new to Twitter, and I love having like a space where so many people are. You can connect with so many people that are so passionate about something. Like,
Yeah, seriously.
it's incredible. I mean, there's so many people in the world that are passionate about what we're doing and the
Yeah,
tabletop in general.
yeah, and like the amount of homemade fan content, and not just like bulk content, but like stuff that you actually want to use and stuff that's
Yeah.
good is just mind blowing. Like people, this big like Wednesday and Thursday threads that people do where
Hmm.
they're posting all their stuff and their self promos. I see stuff in there that I'm just like, the does Wizards like have Twitter people like
I
scouting these
know.
threads because like some of the stuff is
It's
amazing.
really good.
Like some of the really big accounts like Abyssal Brews and all the free items and
Yeah.
stuff, they are such an amazing team, and
Yeah.
like seeing the stuff that they put out and the rate at which they do it, I'm just like, and they have day jobs too. Like
I
this is
know.
not like their job to do this stuff.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. Because Abyssal Brews, are they the ones that started uh the Thursday thing, the TT?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the like rising thread thing.
Yeah, which like that caught on super fast.
Yeah, like has that even happened? Has it even been a month since they started that? I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. And like it's huge,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, I saw one. I saw an account earlier today, I think, that had like 8 or 9 thousand followers that was doing a thread, and I was just like,
wow, really?
yeah,
Wow. I mean, I don't know, it's interesting because to me it feels like I'm coming in so late in the game into like the D&D, like
Yeah, I feel that.
yeah, it feels like we're really late, you know.
Yeah, no, like it feels like people have been around doing this, and they have. People have been doing this like since, you know, the D&D editions started coming out. People have been homebrewing stuff, but the space that we have in this community on Twitter to like get traction with real people and like put things in front of people's eyes is just like on a totally different level than we've ever had before.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like, I don't know, it's tough because like, I mean, when did Critical Role come out? Like,
Man, like 2000. Oh, I'm not like a super huge
four
Critical Role person, so I don't
four
know.
or 5 years ago, maybe.
Oh, it has to have been more than that because they have
Was
like
it?
3 campaigns with more than like campaign 2 has like more than 200 episodes.
Yeah, you're right. Now I gotta look this up.
I want to say it's like 2011, 2012.
Really, that long? I mean, 2015
Oh, okay.
was Vox Machina first. Well, the first aired session was 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm way off then.
Well, still, like, that's almost like 7 years ago, and I don't know. I feel like they were the ones. I feel like Critical Role were the ones who essentially mainstreamed D&D. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but
I mean, I don't know enough about the scene before that because didn't 5th edition came out in 2015, 2014?
that's a good question.
Because I think they were the first group to kind of really latch on to a 5th edition campaign and kind of make it famous.
Yeah, 2014. So you're right. So it was. So that's actually a good point. Like maybe what happened was they were really the first ones. Like people were still getting used to 5th edition, and they were really the ones who like embraced it. And
Yeah. Well, and I know D&D did not have, I mean, anywhere near the same kind of like cultural relevance that it has now and during the tenure of 4th edition because 4th edition was just such a crunchy game. I'm sure there are people out there that are like, oh, 4th edition's not that bad, but I played one session of 4th edition when I was in college and I was like, this is untenable. I cannot do this.
How so? Like I've actually never played 4th edition. I played 3.5 and 5.
I'm probably exaggerating, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot to keep up with for a new person because your abilities were not like everything had like a definite time period. And again, I didn't play a lot of 4th edition, so I'm probably not 100% correct about a lot of this, but your abilities were based on like day time spans.
Oh yeah.
So rather than like the long rest resetting your abilities, it's like you have this once per day ability, you have this twice per day ability, etc. And it was also just like the damage sliders, I guess, were tweaked like way in the favor of making combat a lot longer. So the game was very like grindy in that way. Like the first session I played, or the only session I played at 4th edition, we were there for like 5.5 hours. I think we role played for like 20 minutes before we got into a fight and spent the entire rest of the session playing.
It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like Warhammer, but like with role playing.
A lot of people have said that about 4th edition, and a lot of people like that about 4th edition, that it's more of kind of a combat tabletop game than it is like a role-playing game. And I'm sure there are people who have had great role-playing experiences with 4th edition, but that was not my experience.
Yeah. So what games do you play mostly right now?
So I DM a Rime of the Frost Maiden game.
I've heard I keep hearing so much about Rime, and I haven't even looked at it.
It's good.
Really?
If you want a good primer, Severed Sons is a really good podcast, and that crew, the group of guys that do that is super, super friendly.
Severed Sons.
We have a really cool Discord channel. Everybody's really nice, and the guys are super involved, like the cast. And yeah, they're really incredible people. And I would not say that I have made a lot of like real friends on the internet, but
Yeah.
I think that about those people a
Huh.
lot. And I don't, maybe that's one-sided, but
Interesting. No,
I
I'll check
I've
them
enjoyed it.
out.
But yeah, no, I love the campaign module, and I mean, if you want me to talk about it, I'll talk about it.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah, I would love to.
sure. So I really like it. I think the setting is very like it's Forgotten Realms, so
Mm,
you know everything that comes with that. But it's separated from Faerun in a way that makes it feel very much like its own thing. Like you don't
okay.
the Icewind Dale could be anywhere. Like it
Okay.
doesn't. There's nothing about it that makes it explicitly Forgotten Realms.
Mm,
I mean, other than the pantheon that they've written into the module, but you
sure.
know, the DMs can do whatever they want with stuff like that. But the first the first two chapters are extremely freeform. So there are 10 towns, and each town has kind of one level one town quest, and then one chapter two uh, more excursion based
Hmm.
quest that's like a little bit further outside of the 10 towns scope. But because of that, and because of the way that the rate at which you level up,
Yeah.
you can, if you could play chapters one and two with the same group and just start like in a different place and have two completely different like experiences leading into chapters three and four.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
And three and four are one big set piece that like an event happens, and then the crossroad is presented to the players where
Okay.
you tell them like, all right, you have to either do this thing or this thing, and
Wow.
depending on what they pick, you either run chapter three or you run chapter four.
Oh,
And then
cool.
you
I
go,
like that.
yeah, and you go back and kind of like mop up the consequences of your actions after that. But
Yeah, that's cool. See, and I don't know. I don't know why I didn't even hear about Rhyme. Like, I didn't hear about it at all. And then Sly Flourish, who is he? Do you know Sly Flourish at all?
I think so.
He's one of, I think, one of the most underrated DM resources out there. He's the most like practical DM help person that I know of, and he runs a Rhyme game, and he does like he like will show his planning sessions, and he'll like film them. And
Hmm. Oh, you know what? I think I have seen that guy. Does he have
mhm.
kind of like a green background in his YouTube videos?
Ooh, I'm colorblind, so I
Oh
don't
no.
know.
I do think I know who you're talking
It
about
could be.
though.
He's baldish, like he's balding on
Yeah.
top. He's one of my favorite guys. Like his book Return of the Lazy DM like revolutionized the way I plan for my DM sessions. Just
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Rather than spending like hours and hours and hours on planning,
Hmm.
I spend like an hour and a half to plan, and I feel like I run a decent session with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, people can do a lot with a little, you know, and depending on the kind of game you run and the way you interact with your players, like you might not need any prep time. Like it.
Yeah, yeah. This is a momentous occasion, by the way, for the stream. This is the first time we've had a comment from somebody that's not somebody that I directly know.
It's awesome.
From Tom Kennedy saying that Rhyme is awesome.
Yeah. No, he's right.
Yeah.
It is.
So
I really like it.
the reason I'm interested in it now that you're talking about it too, like, is because I've ran Tomb of Annihilation. I've ran a
Hmm.
lot of modules, and then
Yeah.
I've run the starter set, and right now I'm running an Undermountain dungeon crawl,
Okay.
but I've kind of scrapped. It was Dungeon of the Mad Mage,
Hmm.
but I kind of just scrapped it because I was like, this is going to take way too long. I don't want to spend this long like, in this setting.
Cannot commit to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff in there, I was like, it's fine. It's just I feel like they were trying to make the biggest dungeon ever, which they did, but it feels to me there's a lot of filler that isn't very
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Sure.
So I've been interested in a setting where you could run it multiple times with even the same players and have
Yeah.
like a vastly different experience every time.
Yeah. Well, you can, that's true of chapters 1 and 2. And depending on the things that they experience in those first two chapters, it may influence their decisions for the rest of the module. But I don't want to say that the rest of the book is on rails, but there is like a specific thing that you're doing for the remainder of the storyline.
Okay. So what is it then that you would say separates Rhyme from other things that you've ran?
So I think that Rhyme is not, it is not necessarily, I think it's very beginner friendly, because everything is so encapsulated in those first two chapters. Like you can suck one of those town quests out and run it as a one shot, and you don't like nothing in those first two chapters really requires any context. But what's interesting is that a lot of the quests will relate to things that happen later on, which is why I would suggest anybody that decides to run Rhyme read the whole thing before you start running, because there are a couple of things that happen late in the game, like all of chapter 7 basically, that you want to have presented the ideas to your players before you get there. Otherwise it could feel very like I don't know, not Deus Ex Machina is not the right word, but it could feel very like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay, this is kind of a big setting change.
Oh. That's interesting. The thing I've heard about it is that it's like, it's gritty.
Yeah,
is the word that
it's
I feel
very
like I keep
unkind
hearing.
to the players.
Really?
Yeah, I told my group going in, I was like, I'm going to be playing. I don't normally play with like super strict survival rules because I just don't usually find that groups are very interested in that.
Same, yeah.
But I told them like there are specific things that you have to watch out for in this setting because
Wow.
it's always below freezing cold. There's a weather table that you can roll on every time you go somewhere, and it can be a blizzard. And if you don't have a ranger in your party, some of this stuff is like really gnarly. Like they can get lost.
No one's ever said that before, ever.
Well, and I love that because like so many of
Yeah.
those ranger features often feel useless
For sure.
because
Yeah.
you just like hand wave travel or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I like this module a lot, and I think my players are really liking it too, which is the important part. But the only other module stuff I've done, I ran Horde of the Dragon Queen. We didn't finish it, and I've played in the Avernus, Descent into Avernus.
Oh yeah, how was that? You didn't like it?
No, it and I love our DM, so like I don't think that any of this was his fault.
Yeah.
And I know some people have fun with the module, but there's just so many points in the storyline where especially once you get into Avernus, there's so much that's like, all right, if you miss this thing, like you kind of have to wander around to try and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And there's a DM PC that follows you around that you come to find quickly, like, oh, this person knows what's going on. They just like can't articulate it to you.
Oh no.
And so you kind of are searching for these checkpoints that will unlock these bits of information. And it just, by the time we were done with it, I think we were all kind of ready to be done with it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say people can't have fun with that campaign, because I'm sure a lot of people have.
Yeah. I was very intrigued with it just because like the idea of going into hell was super exciting for me to be like, what would this look like in a D&D setting? But what I have mostly heard from people is that, yeah, it's fine. It's not wonderful though, is kind of the main feedback that I've been hearing, I think.
Yeah. And you spend a lot of the module not in Avernus. I think it's like I think it's the first 3 chapters before you actually get down there. Well, because you start in
Baldur's Gate.
It's Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing, and then you do a bunch of like quest stuff to get to the point where you get told about El Terrell being dragged down to hell, and then you got to go find a guy who can get you down there, and then once you actually get to, I don't know. The thing that we were really excited about when we started playing it is all the like Mad Maxy kind of like vehicle combat. And that just didn't turn out to be like nearly as interesting as we had hoped it was going to be. Like it felt kind of grindy. It didn't, there's not a ton of variety in the vehicles and the things that they can do. So, I mean, at least as written, I'm sure you could make a really cool like supplement or something that had a lot more
there probably
like hell
is.
wagon. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, that's one reason I've always wanted to try. I have yet to introduce, I know you've been making a ton of maps with this. And I've always wanted to do, and I think I'm going to do it this campaign, but I've wanted to introduce ships.
Yeah.
And I've never done ships before.
No, me neither.
I'm extremely nervous to do it.
Why?
That's a good question. I think because like it's such a cool thought to be like a pirate and to be like somebody sailing the high seas, and there's just the feel. Imagine, have you ever been on like a ship before?
I've been on like motorboats.
Yeah, like the feeling you get being on something like that's going over water and you're just traveling at like faster than you could ever swim, and like, and just there's this freedom that comes from it. And like then adding on, like, you have to have a ship battle, you have to have like ship v ship, and that is like super exciting to think about. And I think it's hard. I mean, if I think about running combat ship v ship, right? Like, I don't know what it would look like. Like, it's like, okay, load the cannon or like cast a spell across. But like, if you're a fighter, if you're like a melee person, like, I guess you just, I don't know. There's a lot of, it adds so many more elements to things that is just like, it's hard to be able to try to understand it all and rule things that are going to be exciting while still making sense, I guess.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I almost ran a Spelljammer, kind of like a homebrew Spelljammer campaign, and I had this whole Google Doc for like how the ship works and all the checks that you have to make when you're going places, but I never got into like the ship v ship combat. I think when I was running a homebrew campaign, like my first time DMing, I went straight to homebrew. I didn't want to run a module.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
This is easier if I just make it up myself. I did a ship combat, but it was ship versus monster and not ship versus ship.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. It ended up being really fun. It was a good combat set. I did you know what a Scylla is? Not like the big whirlpool thing, but like the water hydra.
No, I don't.
So it's basically just a hydra with fins. And the way that I ran it was like the heads were coming up like over the sides of the ship.
Okay.
So it was like underneath the boat, and then the heads were coming up. And it took them a while to figure out like, oh, this is like a water hydra. And so they spent a lot of time like chopping heads off and having them regrow. But
how many of these creatures are there?
Right, exactly. I'm actually made one of the maps that's in like a draft stage right now for this new water pack is a Kraken attack map. I think I posted it on Twitter the other day.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, I mean that actually is a great point too. Like doing like a Kraken battle would be so cool to do. I think that'd be a good like introductory battle into learning ship maneuver, like ship mechanics is facing something like that.
But no, I totally on board. Like I also have been really thinking a lot about doing a pirate campaign because
Mm-hmm.
the group that I'm running for now, one of the guys is about to have a baby, and so we were like, well, this is going to be kind of, our schedule is going to be really weird for a while.
For sure.
And so I was thinking, well, maybe we can just do some like here and there one shots. And a pirate setting is great for that because you can just like start a session by arriving on an island, do a thing, and then you're done by the end of the session, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. And Tom says like Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Have you read Ghosts of Saltmarsh at all?
I have not. I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's I've read part of it and I haven't read the mechanics portion, unfortunately. I only read like, because it essentially is a bunch of one shots, but the setting is like pirates, high seas sort of adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I do need to review it because they do have like mechanics for water stuff and ship stuff.
If somebody else already wrote it, I will be more than happy to not have to make up my own version.
That's how I feel too. It's so good. That's another thing of the beauties of like running D&D in the age of the internet. I don't know how people like. I guess I do know how people did it before the internet, but like, man, it seems so hard. It's so nice to just go online and like Google whatever your question is and have it be there in like that amount of time.
Well, and that has really opened up DMing too, because when I first started, I started in like, I don't know, 2017 maybe.
Oh yeah.
I got started with it because the Adventure Zone had just started coming out.
Oh
and
yeah.
I was really into like the other like McElroy podcasts, and I had never like given that one the time of day. And I started it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is my life now."
Yeah, that's a great podcast. It's so good.
and so I just dove straight into the like homebrew aspect because I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the DM's guide like cover to cover, which like don't do that. I would not recommend that to anybody. I would say read the PHB cover to cover, know that, and that's. But because of the internet, I got lost on a tangent. But because of the internet now, like I have forgotten so much of what I used to know about what's in the DMG and the PHB.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I'm always running games on my computer now, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And what's even better is like, if I don't want to look something up or I don't care, I'm just like, I don't know, somebody else look it up. Like, let's roll it this way, and somebody else look it up. And if they don't care, then they won't look it up and they'll just accept whatever I rule. But if they do care, they look it up, and now we know. Like, we learned something, you know? It's so nice.
We actually had that. I ran a session last night, and the druid came to me before the session, and he was like, hey, I really want to upgrade my armor, but there's this weird rule that druids can't wear metal armor. And I was like, that doesn't sound real. That doesn't sound like a rule. I don't like that. That's dumb.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up on like the druid stat block, and it's like, it's so weird. I don't think any other class has this, but it has like their armor proficiency block, and it has all the armors listed out. And then in parentheses at the end, it says druids won't wear armor made of like metal.
Yeah. I don't think they can use like any metal, right?
No. It's no. Well, I think you can do it on their weapons, but they won't use shields or armor made of metal.
Yeah.
It's such a, because of the way that like usually like the style guide for D&D is like very consistent with stuff like that. So seeing something just kind of like tacked onto the proficiency block, I was like, this is so weird.
I wonder why. Like, that probably goes back to like the day that druids were introduced to D&D.
I think it has something to do with the fact that like metal is inherently like a form of corruption to the natural world because you nature. Like melt it down and forge it into something else. I think it has something to do with that.
Isn't carving wood doing the same thing? Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a consistent set of rules that you could apply to that to make it make sense, but
it's probably what I'm thinking in 5th edition is it probably is like because you basically get so much HP from wild shaping all the time that you're basically a tank. Like, so when you go to human form, like you don't want to be unhittable, or else you will literally, your character will literally never die. They'll never die.
I, I've been running for a Circle of the Moon druid in this rhyme campaign, and he got the bear at level 2.
Oh, yeah.
And bears have multi-attack.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Druid of the Moon is there. It is. I played one in 2, or I ran one for somebody who was running in my Tomb game, and it's just like I could throw everything at them and they would still survive every fight. Like, and they'd probably have like one wild shape still available. You know?
Yeah, we're just now getting to the point in the campaign where the other 2 have leveled up to get multi-attack, and so now the party is, even though it's only 3 of them, sometimes we're done with an encounter after like 4 turns.
Yeah,
because they smoke everything so fast, or they almost die to nothing.
Yeah.
It's only one of those 2 things.
Yeah. Before we go on, I forgot to ask what tea were you drinking, or are you drinking?
Oh yeah, the mug's empty now. It was lemon zinger.
Oh yeah, I love a lemon zinger.
I'm not gonna lie, I really don't like hot tea very much, and that's the only one that I'll drink with any regularity.
Really? Do you did you add any honey to it?
No.
Oh, you gotta add honey to lemon zinger. Lemon and honey is a beautiful marriage. It's a wonderful thing.
I'll be honest, I don't even know if we have honey at the house.
Wow. No honey. Are you guys vegan?
No. I didn't eat a lot of it growing up. Like, we were not a big honey household, and so I just never bought it. And my wife doesn't really like it either. So,
wow. I guess, I mean, I don't know. Peanut butter and honey has been like a staple of my life. Like,
I know people really like that. It's just never my thing.
I love it so much. Something about just like the creaminess of the peanut butter with like when the honey is like on the bread and it gets like crunchy and sweet. It's amazing. It's so good. I love it. I wanted to ask you about, so going back to your map making using Incarnate, I've only used it once before. I ran a brief West Marches thing, and I made my map on Incarnate. And it was, I don't know, it was cool, but it was not easy. Like, it was tough. And like watching now, knowing what you use, like, I guess first of all, I should ask, like, what made you want to start sharing your maps with other people?
That's a good question. Let me actually, I'm in it right now. I'm going back to look at my map folder to see if I can try to form a narrative here. So I got started with Incarnate originally because I wanted to make stuff for my homebrew, and this was like right when I first started DMing, because I was doing homebrew and I was like, I need to have a map for this. I don't want to do it in paint because it looks like trash.
Yeah, it's so bad.
And so I just started looking for like free map making stuff, and I started using Incarnate, and I did a couple. I have them here. I spent a really long time making my very first campaign kind of like setting map, and honestly it turned out way better than it had any right to. I'll post it in the Discord call.
Oh, perfect.
But then everything that I made after that looked like the total garbage. It
got beginner's luck.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I spent like way longer than I should have on it.
Oh yeah, this looks great.
But yeah, so then I kind of left it alone for like several years until I was going back to do some short story writing, and I wanted that was a different setting, and I was like, well, I want to have a map for this setting, and so I was like, well, I still have my Incarnate account, I'll just go back and fiddle with it. And I realized when I was doing that like the free version, you can do a lot with the free version, like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It really, you can do a lot of great stuff with it. but so much of the meat of the program is locked behind the subscription.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so I was doing a lot with what I had with the free version, but I wanted to make a better map. And I was looking at the paid version, and there's a monthly cost, but there's also a yearly cost, and the yearly cost is only like
Yeah,
$20.
that's
And
nothing.
and when you look at, especially if you don't have the premium version, if you go and like expand the checkbox that shows you all the premium assets, it like quintuples your asset library.
Wow, really?
And it's if at the what's funny looking back is that it was not about the stamps at the time. It was about the brush textures.
Hmm.
Because when you're doing a world map in Incarnate in the free version, there's only like 10 different brush colors, and they're all
Yeah.
like very flat. They don't have a lot of texture to them.
No. Yeah.
And so making stuff that looks visually interesting at the world scale is really it's hard to do in that capacity. And what I found was after doing that I liked doing battle maps like way more.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, so I made a world map for one of my friends for his short story setting, and he really liked it. And then I was in actually the Severed Sons Discord channel, and somebody was like, "Oh, I'm about to run a a session on the elemental plane of water, but I can't find a map that's like just the elemental plane of water.
Yeah.
It's only like the big, multi-plane map."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, I can probably make that." And so I went
You just made
in.
everything blue. That was it. It was easy. You just
Basically, I mean, it is mostly a blue map. And I made that, and I was like, "Oh, that was neat." And I liked being able to share that with somebody who wanted to use it for something. And so
Yeah.
I piddled around in it for a while, like making some more of my own stuff because I knew I was going to need maps for running Rime on Roll20 because even if you buy the Rime module in Roll20, it doesn't have very many like encounter battle maps.
Mm, mm.
And so I was like, well, I want to get better at this, so I'm going to like ask around and just see like what kinds of things people need. So I asked around on the Discord, and I made some stuff for one person, and she gave me like 3 or 4 different ideas, and so I kind of got to like stretch a little bit in that way and just kind of work on using these smaller scale things instead of the world maps. And what I found is I like that like infinitely better. I think it's way
Wow.
more fun to do battle maps than world maps. But people make insane, like looking at the front page of Incarnate, like people make insane world maps. Stuff that
Really?
I just like I can't even like fathom how they're doing it.
Yeah. I didn't know there was a
um,
front page. So that's this is news to me.
oh yeah, there's like a whole explore feature where you can
Yeah.
just like go and look at other people's stuff that they've made public.
Oh, interesting. Um,
But yeah.
so what made you decide then to start sharing what you made with like strangers and with random people? Like, because I don't remember how I found you on Twitter or vice versa. But
I don't know how I found anybody in this space.
fair point.
It all just kind of happens. You get swept along with the tide.
That's a fair point. But I do know that like as we've like connected and looking at all your stuff, the last map that you put out with like the checkerboard or the chessboard, like one of the rooms has like the chessboard tile on it.
Oh yeah.
That is so good. It's so good. Like that whole map is amazing. And
I
I'm
appreciate
glad you
saying
shared that. Like I'm really glad you shared that because I was like, oh, that is so cool.
That is actually my first commission. This one of the guys in the Severed Sons Discord actually, his name is Eric. He does some TTRPG adjacent stuff too. He has a YouTube series that's kind of like a graphic novel told through like illustrations on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
It's called, I think it's called Tales from the Busty Winch. The name of the tavern is the Busty
Oh,
Winch.
I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, and he's just been very very kind and very uplifting about the stuff that I've posted in the Discord and just kind of like my progress. And so he was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to commission you for a map."
Oh,
And
cool.
so originally he just wanted me to do the tavern, but he sent over some reference stuff that had kind of this whole little city block of like shops and stuff, and it was all labeled. And I was like, I'll do the whole thing because he offered to pay me, and it was very generous what he offered. So I was like, I don't want to just do this like one room tavern if that's what you're going to pay me. And so I did spend kind of a long time on it, but it was so much fun. And
it
like
looks
going back
incredible.
Going back and like looking at it now that it's finished, because I tried out Incarnate's like 4K export feature. And it's wild how far down you can go. I might actually have it in my downloads. I can probably like post it in the I don't know if Discord will take a file this big, but we'll see. But if you open it in like an image viewer, you can zoom like all the way down to like the food on the plates, and it's pretty.
Oh my gosh! See, I didn't actually zoom in. Like, I didn't zoom in super close. I just looked at it on Twitter, which it just is so good. Like,
I'm really excited
the lighting on the fires and like. Those fireplaces look like the coziest things like ever.
That honestly has been like the hardest part about learning to use Incarnate is the lighting. It's kind of a bear, honestly. They have like stamps that are the lighting, so it's just kind of like a semi-transparent like triangle shape like that. And you can turn the like opacity up and down to make it like more or less bright. But then there's not like Incarnate doesn't currently have like a dynamic lighting feature. So if you put a light source in a room, you have to then go and take each thing that's being affected by the light and like manually like move the shadow that it makes. So there's like a little vertical and horizontal slider, and you have to like position, and it's really granular, but honestly, it is like the perfect podcast activity. It's just going back and like fixing the lighting in the rooms.
That's a great point. It's funny because it's interesting because usually what I've been like, because what I've learned, especially since joining the Twitter TTRPG like community, is I knew this prior to even, but there is an infinite amount of content that we can consume in our lives. Like there is a million lifetimes of content out there, and so it's fun to find like activities that you can listen to things that you've wanted to listen to and engage in content but still feel like
productive.
And I don't even know if that, but just feel like you're productive. We'll go with the word productive. Like so far for me, the only things are like chores. Like everything else I can't for some reason I just can't do both. And actually playing this isn't a productive thing per se, but like playing Magic the Gathering online, that like listening to a podcast playing Magic is great. I love doing that.
Do you play Moto or do you play Arena?
Because it's just such a better UI. Like it's not even close.
if you're not already in that ecosystem and established in it, like it is impossible. I've tried so many times because I want to be playing like Pauper, and it's just I've never been able to successfully get to the point where I like have a deck.
I want to play Commander so bad, and I can't because I can't. It's impossible. I played for like a month, and when I stopped playing, I was like, I don't think I'll ever go back to that.
Well, and it really sucks about Commander specifically because I mean, I know they added Historic Brawl, but Historic Brawl is just it's not the same
No.
because it's dominated by like a specific set of 5 color good stuff
Yeah.
decks,
Yeah.
and like if you're playing like the funny meme wolf tribal deck that I play when I'm playing Historic Brawl, it's like this isn't really fun to die on turn 4 to Tiamat, you know?
No, yeah, exactly. I have a paper commander deck of Kaineos and Tiro of Miletus. They're the 4-color.
Yeah.
And I love it's I play it group hug, but I play it so that everybody, like, the point is like group hug card draw, so the whole goal of the game is that, and it's kind of like so if you're doing something, like if one thing benefits you, it's going to benefit me like twice as much. That's the whole goal of the game, is like, I want everyone to prosper, but I want to prosper the most. And which I think says something about me. But it's my favorite deck, and every time I play it like with friends, they hate it. So I almost feel guilty playing it with them. But like, if I could, but I think what lacks for me on Arena is that I can't have that multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
And I can't play, like you said, like the decks that are just like self-expression more so than just like wanting to win and dominate the game.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm just like not an excellent Magic player, or if this is just like part of the person that I am, but I have never been good at crafting like competitive wins a large majority of the time kind of decks. And honestly, like, even if I were to like be handed one, I don't know that I would have fun playing it.
Yeah.
Especially like really heavy, like blue-white control style decks. I'm just like, this is not what makes this game fun to me. So I have like 4 paper commander decks, and I have never played with any of them because I got into commander like during the pandemic, and
good time to do it.
Haven't been able to get back into it. So I've had a lot of fun building the decks, but I've never used them.
Yeah, I when I do arena stuff, I just net deck. I always net deck. I always look up decks, and just because I don't have the time, I'm like, well, it's not a big enough priority for me. I'm never gonna try to be competitive. I just want to get my quests done and like play draft. Like drafting is probably my first or second favorite thing to do in Magic. Commander is the one that probably battles with it. So yeah, I just want to get my gold and save up enough to do a draft, and so I don't care to like create my own deck at all. I just someone else who's spent more hours than me, they can do it for me, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The one deck that I was like really successful with competitively was like right when they first put out Historic as a format, and they added the Jumpstart cards.
Oh yeah.
And I jammed Muxus Goblins all the way to Mythic.
Nice. And wow, well done.
Since then, I have never gotten even back to like Plat.
It's so much time. It's like, it's a lot of time, and it's a lot of like grinding and a lot of losing. Yeah,
a lot of like knowing matchups and like anti matchups and
exactly.
sideboarding, and no, I have a 2-year-old. I don't have time for that.
Oh yeah, especially with a kid. There's no way. I guess it's come out on mobile, so that might make it easier, but
I'm so mad. I get banner advertisements all the time for it, and my phone, I have like a budget phone,
same,
not a flagship model, and I can't get it.
I can't get it. I'm so frustrated.
I'm very salty about it.
I know. I play, well, as you know, but I don't want to spoil too much because in case some of my players watch this, but as you know, I do play League of Legends. So I downloaded
Wild Rift?
No, I haven't actually tried Wild Rift yet. Oh, I don't think my phone can handle it. I don't think
I was surprised mine could.
Maybe mine can. I
It's
downloaded.
pretty well optimized.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Teamfight Tactics is what I have been playing, and that's
Is that the auto battler?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. But whenever I play it, I'm like, I want magic on my phone. That's all
Yeah.
I want.
No, same.
Maybe one day. Going back really quick to the map making thing and using incarnate. I think this like. I think one thing for me it's hard for me to really feel like a quote unquote like creator in the world, because when I go on Twitter, it's impossible not to compare yourself on social media. It's just the way it goes. And so looking at all these things that people make, like there's a guy that makes soy candles, and
Seen those.
yeah, and they're so cool. Like,
yeah,
I am obsessed with them. I can't remember his name. I gotta look it up. But they're so cool. And then like seeing all the dice that people make and the maps and the homebrewed stuff and just everything, it's like, oh, I am like never going to get to this level, But then like hearing somebody like you that makes these really amazing looking maps, but you're using a program that exists. Like, I'm not saying you don't put in a lot of work. Like, I know that you do, but the fact is like
anybody could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You don't have to have like a graphics design degree. You don't even have to have like, you don't have to know how to use Photoshop. I know some people do. They'll like export their map into Photoshop and then do the lighting in Photoshop, which I'm sure is helpful, but you don't have to.
Yeah. I mean, you don't, and the lighting looks great. That's one thing that I noticed is like how good the lighting looks in yours, and you just did it in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It sucks sometimes. It doesn't always do exactly what you want it to do, but you can, especially when the stuff is small, it's easy to kind of fudge the.
Well, and I think that shows, like you are creating these really cool things, and you're using a program that like already exists, right? And you're creating these very unique, striking images. Like, they stand out, and I think that is something that, like, if I was to make that same map, it would look completely different, like. And I'm not saying it would be better or worse, but I just think it's like it shows how cool it is. Like, even though it's easy to compare ourselves to others and like think, oh, I could never do that, or I'll never do that, what's the point in trying? Like, the point is that like I could never make what you make, but that's not the point. Like, the point is that I could create what I can create, like, and there are tools out there, and if I find something that I connect with, like, just do it and just like create, because you get like that feeling of making something that you can be proud of, which is I think kind of what we're all going for.
Yeah. And one thing on the note of comparison, and when I first started putting things out, I was like, I don't really know if I have something to offer this space. And like, I spent a lot of time wondering, like, was it even worth it to have paid for this program? And I'm very much like a in my head kind of person.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like,
I get that.
I spent probably like a week going back and forth with my wife. I was like, I don't think I want to pay for this. Like, I'm never going to use
it's
it.
Like $20.
Like, yeah. Oh no. I mean, that's me all day, every day. With
I understand this 100%.
But after a certain amount of time, being like immersed in, especially the map making space, you just come to see that everybody has something that they're bringing that's just even just like the smallest amount different. Like, some of the people that I see do hand-drawn stuff, and they like scan it and then use it digitally, and that stuff looks amazing. It's so evocative of like old D&D modules, like pen and paper stuff. And then some people like Maps and Quest, a really big account.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I think he
I have no clue.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't want to be wrong about that. So
yeah, I
I'll
don't
just
remember.
Yeah. But they make enormous battle maps, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like the hallmark of their brand. And some people do like pixel art stuff that just looks absolutely insane.
Yeah, I just saw like a GIF of like PCs, like 8-bit PCs.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So good.
Yeah, no, that specific I have to see if I can find them on my feed somewhere, but that specific person that you're talking about I would love to run like an entire campaign in that style. That would be insane.
Incredible.
But yeah, no, everybody has like something that they're bringing to the space that's even just like no two people who are creating something are doing it the same way. Even like, yeah, it's easy to look at podcasting in this space and see it as very like overcrowded.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For some people, like they can't latch on to the sprawling nature of something like Critical Role that has just like this insanely like rabid fan base, not in like a negative way, but like in it can be overwhelming, especially if you're an anxious person.
Oh yeah, they're the definition of fanatical. That is what they are. They're fans.
So finding something that's on that smaller end, or even something that's like a different vibe, like I know the Friends at the Table has like a really big following, but like it's like a very different kind of RPG podcast than a lot of the ones that are popular. And so everybody has something to offer the space. And I think that something that's unique about this community specifically is that it seems as though we've found a lot of people that are willing to acknowledge that, and not even just acknowledge it, but like embrace it. Like people are very, at least in my experience so far, people in this area of the internet have been very willing to be kind and have been very willing to be like uplifting of even like smaller niche things. Like I saw somebody today who is a bookbinder.
Wow.
I've never seen that in this space before, but people were just going crazy for it because it's cool. Like you're bringing something unique to the space, and people will resonate with that. It's cool to have all these different people, even if they're all doing very similar things. It's all these different voices make it better.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I do like that. I think it's such, because I mean anyone can play the games that we play. Like there's not even an age limit. Like, and I don't know. I was thinking like there's room for everybody. This table has no limited amount of seating. It's infinite. And I like that. I think kind of what you were talking about, while I think it might be impossible to like totally silence the comparison voice in your head, I think rather than when you see something that you're like, oh, that's super cool, if we can choose not to like have that be a stumbling block for us, or have that be a point of like, I'll never do that, I'll never be that good, but rather, like you were saying, like, realize that they're contributing in their unique way, and like look at that and be excited by that, and rather be like, that might give you an idea for something you could contribute in a unique way as well. Like I think some of the greatest things in life have come from it, like the saying goes, like that there's no unique idea that's ever existed. Like it's essentially, you always get your ideas from somewhere,
Yeah.
And I don't think we should fight that. Like I think if you see something and it excites you, like run with that, like you don't need to be turned off immediately by intimidation. It just is like, no, you can take what excites you about that and make it your own. Like if you see somebody bookbinding and that's exciting to you, like you could try bookbinding, or you might like include a bookbinder in your D&D campaign. That might be the extent of what you do, but that's cool because you've now made it your own. I think that's a great mentality.
Yeah. I have a good DM friend, the guy that runs the only game that I'm currently a player in. Well, I
Mm,
guess not even currently. We're on hiatus right now,
yeah.
but um, he and I talk a lot about it's like D&D stuff in general. And my favorite moment when we're talking about a thing is when we finally figure out what that thing, like what the analog of that thing is in popular culture.
Oh, yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
you were saying about the inspiration. So like I have a D&D character that I've been playing probably the longest one,
Hmm.
that when I was coming up with it, I was just like, ah, yeah, this is so cool. Like I love this concept. I
Mm.
feel like it's really like unique and original. And I like explained it to him and he was like, oh yeah, like Avatar. And I was just like, yeah, I guess it's Avatar.
The blue people avatar or the airbender?
The Airbender Avatar.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, he's like, and I mean, even like explaining it now feels silly to not have realized it in the first place. But when I was coming up with it, I was like, oh, okay, he's like this Furbolg, and Furbolg society is really like far removed from
Hmm.
everything else.
Hmm.
They to like protect themselves, they have this like ancestral spirit that like inhabits like a succession of people, and
Hmm.
there's this big deal about like one person getting the ancestral guardian
Yeah.
spirit, and like he didn't really want it and kind of like rejects his powers. And when he, because ancestral guardian, when they rage,
Yeah.
they like ghosts appear
Oh yeah.
around them
Yeah.
basically. um and I was like, yeah, when he rages, he has these like tribal tattoos
Yeah.
that light up. And I said all of this like completely straight
Yeah.
faced, like not
100%.
not making the mental connection at all. And then
Yeah.
when he said that, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I just made Firbolg Aang.
Yeah, but but that is so cool. Like it's so cool. And to be fair, like the idea of that didn't come from Avatar, like
Yeah, sure. A reincarnation is,
yeah,
huge.
the Dalai Lama, like that's that whole concept, right? That it's once the Dalai Lama dies, they're reincarnated, like their spirits reborn into the current earth. Like, so I love that, like, and then I think if you, even though you might start from a place of like, quote unquote, like unoriginality, you'll always make something that only you could create. That's how it always goes.
Oh yeah, and especially with D&D characters, even if it starts off as something, quote unquote derivative, like
Yeah, yeah,
the experiences that the character has, it's never going to be the same. Even if
no,
you were running like the Avatar RPG system
yep,
with the intent to recreate the show, you wouldn't do it. It
no,
would be different in some way.
yeah, exactly. Like, and I don't think you would. No one would want it to be the same,
Nobody
right?
wants to do that.
No,
Just watch the show.
exactly. It's a great show. Just watch that instead. Um, yeah, I'm doing in my dungeon. I've each level essentially is going to be one giant or like there's going to be one or two references to something that I love on each level of the dungeon. So the map that you're making with League of Legends, that's going to be one of the levels of the dungeon. And I also kind of have this idea. I think the thing is for me is I want to play D&D with my brother, but my brother has two kids and he doesn't have enough time to play a 3 to 4 hour session. So if I can make it so that D&D can be shorter but still feel like playing D&D, and I have some ideas with the map that you're making, I think like adding a very specific endpoint to the game, like when the game ends.
Yeah.
I think that'll be helpful because I think one of the hardest things is there's no real concrete like endpoint in D&D. So what I'm doing for each level is something that I love, and it's funny because I actually have created a game out of it. Like if my players understand the reference that I'm making, they get XP for it. So it's a little meta, and some people would hate that, and I don't know if my players will like it, but I love it as a DM, like, and so I'm gonna keep doing
Sometimes
it.
you got to do something for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is that I'm very invested in D&D. Like I started a YouTube channel about it essentially because and I don't know if my players they have lives, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I respect that. And so like, I told you the reason I made the space is so that I can find people that also I can just share these stupid thoughts with, and this connection of passion with. So like, you know, I think my players, they play a session and then they don't think about it like for the rest of the week, because they're just like, well, they show up, they play, and they have fun. We have fun for a few hours together. It's a time for us all to be friends for a little bit and check in and just connect, which I think is super important. So I don't mind gamifying it for myself because, you know, I think that if I don't look forward to the sessions, like if I don't find something that's fun for me, then it'll just fizzle and die because I don't know if they would want to continue it on. So
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing for like DMs, and I think it helps prevent burnout a lot. Is like, as a DM, if you're not like doing something each session that you're at least like looking forward to or excited to do, then you're just gonna stop doing it. Like,
Yeah.
because it's just so much work. It's so much like mental energy and mental effort and work that I think you need to at least have one thing that you're excited for each session, at least.
Yeah. No, totally. I agree. I had the session we just ran last night, I was super pumped for. We've been building to it for a long time, and we finally got to have like this big climactic battle, and I had told them in advance, like, okay, here's what I want you to like. We're gonna arrive at this place, and then you're gonna have like a pretty set amount of time to like prepare yourself for what's gonna happen next.
Cool.
And then the thing is gonna happen.
Oh, cool.
And so I gave them like the 2 weeks in between sessions to like think about that. But anyway, that session was great. The session before that, at the end, I felt like trash.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't think they had fun. I didn't really have that much fun.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of like sweeping up. We do like one long session and then one short session. It's kind of like on and off just because schedules.
Sure.
And it's easier to get everybody in if we do it that way. Plus, it keeps us from having to only play once a month, which we did not love.
It's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's hard to stay invested when you're only doing it once a month.
It's really hard. I find that twice a month is basically a minimal amount, like the minimum that you need.
Right. But yeah, I didn't feel great about that session because I was like, well, I didn't have a thing in mind when we started that we were going to like accomplish. We were just kind of like finishing up the thing that we had started in the previous session. And then a guy kind of had to leave a couple minutes early, so we missed out on like a big lore dump conversation. And so we just kind of had to like stop. And I was super down about it, but I was glad with this last session to be able to come back and like have what really felt like this was like a good
cool
session.
Yeah, those are the ones that keep you hooked.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think our primary focus as DMs should be on our players having a wonderful experience, right? Like, but I think most DMs get that. Like, I think at least the DMs I've interacted with, 80 to 90% of them understand that the reason they run D&D is for their players. Like, if their players are having a good time, then it's going well. But I think it's not fair. It's not a fair relationship because, like, as a DM, if you only give and give and give and give, and it's same like working in mental health, like, or any healthcare, you give and give and give and give, and like if you don't ever make time for yourself or take something for yourself, like you burn out and you get tired, and something will happen that makes you not want to do it anymore. And I think if we can avoid that, like, I think, so to me, like, what it is I just have at least one thing every game, no matter what, like, no matter what my players do, they can go off the rails and do whatever they like, but there's at least one thing each game that I will make sure happens because I'm excited for it, like, and I will look forward to it. And so, like, at the end of the night, even if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, you know, like, at least I got to do my one thing. And it's selfish, yes, but like, I think DMs need to be a little more selfish sometimes.
Yeah, you know, like, you're giving so much of yourself as the DM, and I mean, I don't want to make DMs sound like martyrs, because I know a lot of us do it because we want to.
Exactly. Fair point.
But yeah, no, I mean, the thing for me is just like finding the things that my players, I just want my players to think I'm cool. That's like that's the whole thing. I just want them to be like, oh wow, that idea that he had was so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I got to play with it.
Yeah. Little do they know that most of our ideas are just bullshitted up on the spot. Like, it's like
so much of it.
It's funny because, like, I listen to, like, Dimension 20 has Brennan Lee Mulligan as the DM, and he is my favorite DM. Not even close. I love him, and like, his players can do whatever they want, and he's such a good improver that it makes. That's the funny thing is, like, I feel like a lot of times his players will be like, "How did you think of that?" or like, "How much planning did you do?" And in my mind, I'm like, I bet he just made that up on the spot.
He thought, oh, that would be cool, and then did it.
Exactly. That actually, there's a lesson there for sure. Once you think something's cool, just do it.
I mean, really, like, there's something to be said for like the style of DMing where you really like nail things down and you play things like very straight. And honestly, like, I as a player have wanted to play in that kind of game
for sure. Yeah,
but like, I don't know, man.
Who's got that time? Who's got that time?
And also, like, who has that group of players that is going to play the game that way?
That's a fair point. It's almost like presenting, like, it's like going to McDonald's and you get served like this like filet mignon, you know, like you're like, okay, this is cool, but not what I was expecting at all.
I came to McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted my McDouble and my sundae. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, and also, and that's fine. Like, players should have agency, but I have always wanted secretly to play in one of those games that's like very serious. Like, everybody is very interested in like the role playing, and nobody's like farting around during the session. But like, I have never had one of those games. So
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how I'd feel about that. I know I could. I know personally, I could never DM like that. Like, well, I wouldn't do it for very long because I would get burnt out on it for sure.
Wouldn't be fun. Yeah.
No. Like a very. I know you're talking like political as well. Like a lot of like politics going on. And like threads and everything.
I mean, God, it would be cool. It would be cool to like have somebody who could run a game that way.
That'd be cool.
But I would not want to have to be the person to run that game.
No, me neither. If you ever find a DM that does, I'll play in it, but I can't promise I won't DM it. To wrap up the stream, I forgot. I'm wanting to do this at the beginning, but I keep forgetting, so it never happens. We'll do it to end instead. We have a choice to end. You can choose between we can do a question to end, a game to end, or we can do an improv to end. Let's
Let's do a question.
Question. Okay, here's how a question is going to work. We're both going to come up with a question, but we both have to answer both questions.
Okay.
So, do you want to ask the first question or the second question?
Do we have like constraints, or is this just like any question?
Any question.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Do you want to do first question or second question?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So, if you were given license over like creative direction at Dungeons and Dragons, like the official WotC version,
this is a big question.
what like setting or IP or thing would you like want to pursue as the next like resource to provide people with?
What does IP mean?
Like intellectual property. So like if you like the series, or let's say like Lord of the Rings is an IP, like Mega Man is an IP, like.
Yeah, great question. So I just finished watching Arcane, or at least the 3 episodes that came out. Have you watched it at all?
I need to. I might actually go do that after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of my friends used to play League, and I still have played League forever, and so it's good. I really enjoy it, but they love it. Like I don't even like it as much as they do, and I've played more League than they have. Like, but I honestly think like if you could put like I don't know. To me, here's what I'll say. I think as creative director, I would love to have games within games, like using the rules system of D&D, of 5th edition. So like not just being like play D&D, like that's what you're going to do with our rules. Like instead being like you can do like mini games using 5th edition rules. So like you could play like sports. Like you could become like a professional athlete, you know, like, and I know this is possible, and you could run, you know, like an hour to 2 hour sessions, make them like really short, and just have it be like, here's the rules for this subsystem within our system of 5th edition. I think that would be awesome. What would you say?
I've actually been thinking about it since I asked you, because I realized after I finished talking that I did not have an answer for this yet. You know, I think a while ago I probably would have said, you know, bring some of this Magic IP into the D&D space, but they've already started doing that. And okay, so a lot of people, I mean, I don't know what people think, but I think people would give me flack for this. But one of the things that I've always been really interested in the RPG space is Mouse Guard. Are you familiar with Mouse Guard?
No. It's not Redwall, is it?
So it's not.
Okay.
But it is.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. I've heard about this. Okay, sorry.
So it runs on like the L5R system. I know there's a simplified version of it where they did their own rule set, but I think just because of my familiarity with 5e and the general accessibility that I think 5e provides, I think I would want to see like a Redwall style book come out. I think they could do so much with that. And I think a lot of people would want it. Like the success of Humblewood as a Kickstarter should have been a signal to Wizards.
I haven't even heard of Humblewood.
Like, I mean, if you want me to, I'll send you the PDF. It's amazing.
Really?
It's really, really fun. I ran
it's 5th edition.
I ran the opening adventure module for it, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that might be a really good level of the dungeon in the dungeon crawl to do.
So everybody gets turned into animals.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great idea. I'm glad you said that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'll send you the PDF if you want me to.
Yeah, that
I
would be
kickstarted
awesome.
it, so I
Please,
have it.
please do. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. Like, there are a lot of people that play the animal races of, like, quote unquote animal races of D&D, you know, like people like playing well, I guess I don't know many Kenku players now that I say that, but yeah, I don't know. And actually, no, now that I say that, none of my players ever have. Like, but I've always wanted to play like a Loxodon, or like a Minotaur. I think that'd be super cool. So
Yeah.
Tom Kennedy said all Kadim. Do you know what that is?
I think that's one of the more like Near Eastern inspired
Oh,
settings
interesting.
that it like has existed before, but is not very popular right now, like Dragonlance and
Arabian Nights
Greyhawk.
theme campaign.
Yeah.
That sounds cool too. Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like it has been a lot of Forgotten Realms stuff lately, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I mean, this is me coming from a place of like not being immersed in like the different campaign settings growing up, and like a lot of it is
Same.
just because I'm not like old enough to have experienced a lot of that.
Yeah.
But like it would be hard to make something for fifth edition for something like Greyhawk or Dragonlance that would really feel like meaningfully different. And part of that is because Forgotten Realms is just so like broad sweeping, like capital F fantasy.
Yeah.
And it encompasses just like so many tropes. And I know that there are people that really love like the Drizzt novels and all of the
True.
world building that has gone into Forgotten Realms. But at the same time, there's nothing about Forgotten Realms that you're like, oh, that's the world with X.
Exactly.
Like if you're looking at Eberron, you go, oh, that's the one with Warforged.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. It's kind of like Fantasyland 101 is like Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Like, and even like, that's a fair point, because with Lord of the Rings, you can at least be like, oh, there's like the Shire, that exists in Lord of the Rings. And I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. I've never really thought about that before. Great question. Okay, my question is, so as somebody who's currently making battle maps specifically, so in your experience, either DMing or playing, what has been one of your favorite like battle maps that you've either ever used or seen used as like a player that you've experienced? I'll say that.
Oh man. That's tough because so much of the like D&D stuff on Roll20 is not like they don't make a lot of specific battle maps.
Yeah.
The one that stands out the most to me, I guess mild spoilers for Descent into Avernus, but there's a sorry, I was sending you that drive link. Okay. There's a spot in Avernus called the Scab, which is this big gnarly like mound of flesh that has grown over the temple that you're trying to get to. And part of one of the later chapters is like making your way through this kind of like oozy like biological area. Like the walls are kind of made.
That's
it's called the Bleeding Citadel.
That's
it's
horrible.
But the reason that it stands out to me is because it's not like graphic or anything, but the map that they give you in Roll20, and it's the same one that's in the campaign book, is like flat. So it's like everything is flat. It's 2D.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not it. I'm trying to figure out a way to articulate this. So you know how like Mr. Game & Watch is in comparison to the other Super Smash Brothers characters? Like he's like 1 pixel wide.
Because I don't play Super Smash.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a map that's drawn like you would draw like the sideways. So rather than being top down,
Oh
it's like
yeah,
sideways.
yeah. Okay, cool.
I
So
mean, see,
it's a platformer game essentially. Yeah.
yeah, the
Okay.
map looks like that,
Yeah, I got you.
basically.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find
Oh, that is interesting, huh?
it probably won't be easy to find because it's actually in the PDF, so it's not just gonna be like readily available on Google Images, but I think I found it. Um, but yeah, because you're like descending, they laid it
Oh.
out that way, and it's really interesting. It's also done in like a very like sketchy, like red and white style. So it's well, okay. This website is trash. It's not gonna do what I want it to do.
If I had a
Okay, well, I
dollar
got a
for every
really
time
low
I've said
res version of
that.
it. Let's see. See if you can see that. I don't know what
Oh
like,
yeah.
but you see what I mean? How it looks like an ant farm.
Oh, it does. Yeah. That's such a really good analogy. Huh. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
But yeah, that's the one that stands out the most
Oh,
in my mind.
interesting. Um, so did you ever run or have ran any battles in there?
Oh yeah, no, like we when we were playing in the campaign, we went through that whole thing.
How did that feel, like doing it that way instead?
Well, so at some points you didn't really notice it. Like in some of the hallways, it just felt like a normal top-down map. But this map is so small in Discord chat, and I'm just trying to see if I can find you a bigger one. But there's 2 or 3 specific rooms where the way that it's drawn is like I don't know the word that I'm trying to find, but it's like flattened for you on purpose. So if you look in that top right corner, I think it's like 54 maybe.
Yeah.
54 and 53. So you can see how there's like that water level that runs like horizontally in the room.
Yeah.
So when you're playing on that in Roll20, it makes it look like the water is like the wrong way in the room, if that makes sense.
Whoa. Huh.
It was kind of trippy because like, so you're moving over that space and you're like, am I in the water right now? It's like, I know what they're trying to convey with this drawing. Like we're in like a cavern, and at some point there's like step down into the water, but like, is it water here or am I like, yeah, it was confusing. And not necessarily in a good way.
Interesting. The best kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Very cool. I would say for me, my first thought was in game. I remember one time I just threw together a battle map really quick. I just drew one out, like sketched one out on a dry erase thing. And my friend had a flying broom that he hopped on, and I had these like toy blocks that I bought at like a thrift store. And I remember I took one of the blocks and just like propped it up and put his character on top of it, so now he was like elevated above everybody else. And that was the first time we like added a height dimension.
Yeah,
to like
the
that
Z-axis.
Exactly. And we were like, I was like, everybody, we were all just like, oh, this is the coolest thing. Like, we thought that was awesome.
A lot of people think that DMs don't let you fly as an Aarakocra because it's like game breaking, but in reality, we just don't want to have to figure out where you are in 3-dimensional space.
It's so hard. You're right. I have a Aarakocra player in my dungeon crawl, and the hardest thing, honestly, is just being like, what is the range on anything that you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how far away is that?
I didn't sign up to this to do math. You know?
I gotta get Pythagorean in here. But the other one was the Roll20 map for Tomb of Annihilation, the final fight with Asarak. That last room is really cool. There's lava, there's like carapaces, there's balconies, there's like a portal. There's a lot of elements that make it super cool, and it was fun to run because the players weren't. It wasn't just like, okay, go and kill. Like, it's like, no, you have all these things you have to watch out for and avoid. Like, I think it's a great room to like show kind of. It doesn't do the players any favors, which is kind of what Tomb of Annihilation is all about. So like, they really, I think, hit that really well on the last battle map.
Have you ever seen the Tomb of Horrors from the Yawning Portal book?
Yeah, I read part of it. I didn't finish reading it though.
It is hot garbage.
Yeah, is it really?
Oh, it is. It is probably one of the most frustrating experiences that I've ever had as a player.
Oh, yeah.
And like, maybe it worked better in the original like way that it was intended, but it is like
it didn't.
it is like completely indecipherable.
I don't know why people. Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know why people loved Tomb of Horrors so much. Like, I don't understand it. It's not even.
I couldn't tell you.
It's not even like that you're trying to win as a player. It's just that you're trying to at least not die all the time, you know, like you're at least trying to do something, you know.
And like, unless your DM like goes into this giving you some kind of context to say like, oh, you don't die, you just like start back at the beginning.
Yeah,
like you would just be rolling new characters the whole session.
Yep.
Because there are some puzzles that are like instant death. Yep. So like you don't really have a whole lot of opportunity to like try different things and get it wrong.
For sure. Exactly.
It's very frustrating. I would not recommend it.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound fun as a DM either, right? Like, you want to have the characters like explore the dungeon and they only get like 2 steps before they die again.
Right. And there's no real good like organic way to like help them figure it out. Like, there's a poem at the beginning, but it's like some of the things are intended to be literal, some of them are metaphorical, some of them are just lies.
Yeah.
Like, some of the things it says, like, yes, that is true, and some of it's just like, nope, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah. That's a good. But to be fair, if I was to ever create a dungeon to guard all the stuff I didn't want taken, I would make it the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the thing about it that really gets me is the false ending. There's like again, I guess mild spoilers if you want to play Tomb of Horrors, but there's a room that you go to that the players can get to where you fight like a fake Acererak, and it's not like an easy fight.
No.
You fight it, and at the end there's all of this treasure that appears, and the whole place starts to shake.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh man, everything's coming down. But that's not the real thing. It's all fake. And if you get out with the treasure in like a day, the treasure turns to like useless garbage.
Oh my gosh. The sad thing is I've thought about doing that to my players at like certain points, and I'm like, that's the most dick move you could do.
Oh yeah. Especially if you're gonna run things like after that where they're like walking around thinking that they have like accomplished something. Like
they better hurry and spend that gold. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining. Is there anything that you want to plug? I have your Twitter and your Ko-fi in the show notes. Is there anything else you want to plug for yourself?
Yeah. Anybody that's watching this that's interested in new player races for 5th edition, I'm working on a big 10 race player supplement for next year sometime.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've got a lot of art commissions out right now, and actually while we were doing this, one of the artists just emailed me with like the final scanned version of one of the pieces of art, and I've just been looking at it this whole time. Very, very good.
Oh,
but yeah, I'm really
cool.
excited about it. It's 10 unique player races. There will be racial feats, racial history stuff. Some of them are like kind of amalgamations of things that they haven't brought into 5th edition yet that were in previous editions. It's mostly just one because I'm salty that the character I played in 4th edition isn't available for 5th edition. But
The one game you played.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. If that's something that's interesting to you, then follow me on Twitter and I'll probably start promoting it more next year. All the race stuff is done.
Yeah.
I need playtesters and I need willpower to not share all of the art before the book comes out, because then why buy the book?
Fair point. All right. Well, if you ever need a playtester, I'll happily playtest something for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to realize I'm going to have to like run these playtest sessions myself because nobody's going to want to just like do it for me, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd happily run some, but I don't know if I could get players on board with that. Well, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this was really fun. I'm glad we did this.
Me too. I'm also happy. Honestly, I'm happy you brought in our first commenter from outside my realm. Do you know Tom Kennedy? Is this somebody you know?
If I do, I must know them by their screen name. I'm not 100% sure.
Well,
maybe
thanks.
Somebody saw us on
Thanks,
Twitter
Tom,
today.
for joining. Happy you're here. All right, I'm going to end the stream.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you again. We're offline.
Okay, cool.